Hi again from St. Augustine's. Today's video I will take you around the front half of the sanctuary. So this is where most of the liturgical activity happens. I'm currently sitting in the chair that the presiding priest usually sits in, whether that's Marion or me or a guest celebrant. I don't know whether you've paid much attention to this view when you come up for communion, but this is what we see for most of the service. Next to me is where the deacon or assistant clergy person sits, and behind that is the pulpit. The pulpit, you'll remember, is the place from where we preach the sermons and read the gospel. The carvings on the front, on the left, as you look at it, is St. Peter, and on the right is St. Paul. In terms of saints' iconography, we know Paul by the sword, and Paul is always accompanied by Peter. I would expect to see Peter holding keys to the kingdom, but not in this portrayal. We just know that he goes with Paul. And this is what it's like preaching from the pulpit. Take a few steps up. It's a similar view to the normal seats, but a little higher. And the reason pulpits were elevated is partly for visibility, so the congregation could see the preacher, and partly for acoustics, so that their voice would be projected. I don't know if you can hear a slight echo in this video. These days we are usually electronically amplified as well. All down both sides of the church are windows depicting saints, and on this side it's the biblical saints. Starting with Peter. As I mentioned earlier, Peter is usually portrayed holding keys in the scriptures, so that's more easily visible here. And down the bottom we're shown scenes from the scriptures, and this panel is from Maundy Thursday, the moment when Peter denies Jesus for the third time. You see him turning away, and then hears the cock crow as Jesus foretold. Next to Peter is Andrew, and you'll see the Bible he's holding is decorated with the St. Andrew's cross. You may be more familiar with that as the flag of Scotland. Down the bottom is a scene from the feeding of the 5,000. Andrew was one who brought the young boy to Jesus, bearing the loaves and fishes. Moving across the sanctuary, this is where the LAs sit, the liturgical assistants. And the windows on this side of the church depict saints of Britain and Ireland. As you would expect, we begin with St. Augustine of Canterbury, our patron saint. Over his right shoulder, you'll see the Cathedral of Canterbury, and he's wearing his bishop's mitre and holding a bishop's staff. In the lower panel is Augustine arriving at Thanet and preaching to Ethelbert and his wife Bertha. Next to St. Augustine is St. George, here dressed as a knight and standing on the blue dragon's neck. And below that is the scene of George slaying the dragon, this time a red dragon, with the princess over his right shoulder. George is depicted next to Augustine because of his association with the army as a patron saint, and of course this is a war memorial church. Side of the sanctuary you'll see the lectern where the readings and intercessions are read, and just in the corner there is the Lady Chapel. There's the vestry behind the altar. And again, this is what readers and intercessors see. And finally, the altar, where we celebrate the Eucharist. I like to give you the different perspectives that many of you will not see. This is what the priests see as we celebrate communion. If you're wondering why the blue cloth is a dust cover, and apparently the blue protects the white altar cloth from the light and thus from becoming discolored. So one more time, that is the main part of the sanctuary, where most of the action in a service takes place. We continue to pray for your health and safety, and that we do get to see you back here as soon as we can. I hope you enjoyed today's video.